President Zelensky, though, will virtually address Congress tomorrow morning, where he is expected to ask once again for the U.S. to implement a no-fly zone over Ukraine. Joining us now is the former U.S. ambassador to NATO and former special representative for Ukraine, Kurt Volker. Ambassador, always good to see you. You know, we're going to talk about this no-fly zone again tomorrow, I imagine. And I guess the thing that I want to ask you is, are there ways that you can implement a no-fly zone in a way that might not escalate it the way some have described? In other words, it seems to me that it's not as cookie cutter as everyone describes it. Is there a way to do this that might not escalate to World War III, as a lot of people put it?
Yeah, well, Sean, I certainly believe so. And first off, we need to put the onus of escalation onto Vladimir Putin. We need to make clear we are not there to attack Russian forces on the ground or in the air. We want to create safe skies over Ukraine, Kiev and West, not the entire country, not close to Russia's borders. Kiev and West create safe skies for civilians and for the delivery of humanitarian assistance. And if we do that, it then becomes Putin's choice. Is he going to try to fire at American or other NATO country aircraft? Is he going to try to engage us? If so, I think he'd be risking something in escalating the war at a time when his war effort is already going badly. So I grant that there are other options as well. Today, we read in the Wall Street Journal an idea for escorting humanitarian airlift. That's also a good idea. But I think we need to be asking ourselves, what can we do and how, as opposed to announcing what we can't do.
Great point. Tomorrow, we are expecting for President Zelensky, when he talks to Congress, to ask for these MiG-29s. He's been asking for them. There's a bit of mixed messaging from the White House. Originally, Secretary of State Antony Blinken greenlit the transfer from Poland to Ukraine. But then the Defense Department nixed that deal because it said Ukraine can't fly MiGs in the first place. And then they said sending the jets would escalate this tension with Russia. So from your perspective on these fighter jets, would that escalate tension with Russia? And again, should we be concerned about that?
Well, first off, I feel sorry for Tony Blinken, because I think he was really doing his best and trying to create this space to approve the transfer of these fighter planes to Ukraine, and he was overruled. And I don't think it's the Pentagon that overrules him. I think it's the White House and the president himself. And I think these excuses from the Pentagon as to why it doesn't work are, again, finding reasons why not, rather than finding the way how to do something. As far as the impact of these aircraft, the Ukrainians have trained pilots. They fly these aircraft already. They know how to use them. There are difficulties, but as we know, we are in a war for Ukraine's survival. We're not in the war. Ukrainians are in the war for their survival. We should give them everything they're asking for, everything we can, so that they can fight Russia and stop Putin in Ukraine. So we're not worried about stopping him later when it comes to the Baltic states or Poland or Moldova or wherever he may go.
But Ambassador, here's what I don't understand. So first, the White House, after this whole MiG thing went south, right, the Defense Department said that the MiGs the deal was nixed because they couldn't fly them, which I don't understand why the president of Ukraine would ask for planes that they can't fly. Let's leave that aside for a second, because that doesn't make a ton of sense. But then the White House said, well, we're concerned because it would escalate the deal. We're sending them missiles. How is sending missiles not escalatory, but sending MiGs would be?
Right. It is not. I mean, we are giving the Ukrainians lots and lots of weapons to kill Russians, whether they're in tanks or in the air with Stinger missiles. We should be giving them more of that as well. And we should be giving them shore-to-ship missiles so they can go after some of those Russian vessels launching cruise missiles in the Black Sea. And there's no difference. Aircraft would be the same thing. So why not do it? Why not give them everything now? We keep doing half steps and then later on come around to doing the right thing. Let's just do it now.
Bingo.
Yeah.
You just put your finger on it. That's exactly what's happening. We keep doing these half things and then go, yep, we screwed up, and do it again. Anyway, that's why we love having you on, Ambassador. You always nail it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
All right.